Okay, wait, the stream is live now. I have made you host back again, and Todd is your co-host.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody. Let's check people off here. Morning, Emily. All right. And Ed, good morning. Go ahead and unmute Emily. Can you find it, Emily? It's down the bottom left if you're on a computer. If you're on a tablet or an iPhone, it may be up at the top. Gonna keep checking with other people while you're looking for that. Julie, good morning.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks, Julie. All right, let me check this off. And Jack, good morning.
Good morning.
And John, good to see you again.
Good morning, Wade.
Welcome back. Hi, Brenda.
Good morning, Wade.
And Barb.
Good morning.
Hi, Barb. Let's see. Hey, Josie.
Hey, Wade, how are you? Good morning.
Oh, doing great. It's a nice sunny morning here in North Carolina.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And June, hi. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I'm looking forward to making this thing work.
Oh, okay. Let's hope we do. We'll give it a shot. Hi, Shirley.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And let's see who else is here. Kay is here as well. Hi, Kay.
Hi.
So Emily, looks like you still can't find the unmute.
Good morning.
Oh, there you go. All right, great.
Thank you.
Just trying to make sure everybody can unmute so I can hear your questions once we get started. So good. Do one thing over here. One second. All right, there we go. Okay, all right, let's see how we doing. So I think I've heard from everybody, and almost everybody's showing your video. If anybody else wants to show your video, it's down in the right beside your mute and unmute. It's not required to show your video, but if you would like to, we'd love to see you. We usually take the first 4 to 5 minutes of the class to give people a chance to log in and get their audio and video working. It looks like everyone is pretty much there at this point. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of the housekeeping issues. Roko's coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start getting things ready for the class. I'm going to move your pictures over to my other monitor over here where I can see you. Right, there we go. Is there anyone who can't see my phone over here because pictures are blocking it?
No.
Okay, all right, great. So that'll be important. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. And I'll remute during the course of the class if I start to hear some background noise or echoes or anything like that. So point there being, if when you have a question or a comment, just be sure to check and see if you're muted. If you are, unmute yourself before you ask your question. No reason to raise your hand or anything. Just go ahead and unmute your phone and ask away. And I also have the chat open. So if you're having problems with your microphone or need to get in touch with me via the chat, it is open. And Todd is also here from the Get Set Up TA team, who's going to be helping me to monitor the chat as well. So if I miss something in there, Todd, just go ahead and unmute and let me know there's a question in the chat that I didn't get to. But if your mic is working, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. That way everybody will hear your question, and it'll make sure that I hear it on a timely basis as well. Okay, all right. Heroku, I saw your comment. There is something called iPhone shortcuts, which we're not going to cover shortcuts as such today, but I will show you tips and tricks. There is another class where we talk about shortcuts. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I think I've heard from just about everybody. There's Helen has just come in along with Heroku. Welcome. Let me check you off
Thank
the
you.
list. Helen, there you are, Helen. There we go. All right, we're good. So this is iPhone Basics. This is the first of several iPhone related classes. So this is the introductory class. I want to welcome you to the class. Thank you for attending. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be the guide for the class today. Briefly about me, I come from a small town in North Carolina called Mason, in Tennessee called Mason. I currently live in Southport, North Carolina. I have a PhD in psychology and have taught psychology in a number of colleges, but most of my work career was installing and training users on hospital information systems, training doctors and nurses. But I love teaching at Get Set Up primarily because the people in the class are here because you want to be in the class. It's something you want to learn, not because your employer told you had to attend the class or it was a required course. And that's what we try to do at Get Set Up, is to create an environment where you can learn about something you're interested in, along with other people that are interested in the same topic that you can interact with, as well as interacting with the guide teaching the class. And we hope that you're enjoying that process. The session is being recorded, and you can request a copy of the recording of this or any other class you attend by sending an email to help@getsetup.io. I'm going to put that in the chat in case you don't have that already in your email contacts. Go ahead and write that down. At the end of class, during the closing slides, I'll talk about some other ways you might want to also use that email address. The session is being live streamed today along with a lot of our other classes. And so we want to welcome anyone that's joining us via live stream. Thanks for joining us as well. But again, want to suggest that you do sign up for classes, and that way you can actually interact with the other learners and ask questions directly to the guide. And finally, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any of the products and vendors that we talk about. We are purely trainers. So let's talk about the agenda for today. By the end of the class, you should know how to find information about your phone and the operating system on your phone. Know several ways to silence the ringer, which is handy. Sometimes they go off at inopportune times. how to navigate and use the different screens on your iPhone, and be able to manage apps and widgets. You may not know what widgets are yet, but you will by the end of the class if you don't. And also know about the app library. Okay. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using my phone over here. I'm going to slide everything over just a little bit so I can get my phone closer to the center of the screen, a little easier to see. So the first thing we're going to do is to show you how you can find basic information about your phone. That's handy to have. Lots of times questions may come up, or if you're calling support, they'll ask you these questions. You need to go to the settings. Your settings app looks like this. Hope everyone can see where I'm pointing. Yours is probably up in your home screen somewhere. Mine's down here, but it looks the same. So find that settings and go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to scroll down just a little bit to where it says general. And in fact, the general icon here looks just like the app icon itself. So if you touch general, it's going to take you to this screen. And we're going to look at these top two options. And the first one we're going to look at is about. So if you touch about, it should bring you to a screen that looks like this with lots of good information about your phone. It has the name of the phone, which you can change if you want to. It has the software version. And this is fairly important because a lot of things we're going to talk about, you have to have iOS 14 or higher, 14.0 or higher. So hopefully everyone is there. If you have a iPhone 6 or older, iOS 14 is not supported. So you have to have at least a 6S or higher to get to 14. So if you are on an older phone, there's some of the things I'm going to show you you won't be able to see, and I'll try and call those out for you. It has the model phone. I have an iPhone 8, as you can see here. It will tell you what your phone is. Take note of that because things work differently depending on your model. 8 is kind of the break point for most things. So 8 and older work one way. Newer than 8 works a different way. So I'll call those out and say if you're on a model higher than an 8, here's how it works. If you're on an 8 or older, this is how it works. And then it drills on down into the specific model number and the actual serial number for your phone. Did everybody get here? And anyone have any questions about the about screen? All right. If not, what we're going to do is touch the general up here and just go back one level to that previous screen we were on and drop down one and click on the software update. If you're at the current level, it will look like mine. It'll say your software is up to date. If you're not on the current version, you'll see something that looks more like this, where it'll tell you what operating system you're on, and let you know that there is an update available. And if you are, don't do it now, but you can click download and install to install that update. Usually better to install an update when you're not going to be using your phone for an extended period of time. Best time is at night when you go to bed, plug it in, make sure it's connected to Wi-Fi, and then hit the download and install. If you click automatic updates, and I'm going to touch that now, there's two options. If you want Apple to just install updates automatically so you don't have to worry about doing it manually, move both of these over to the green, and Apple will automatically download new updates and then install them at a time when it's appropriate. Typically, if Apple will do that again in the middle of the night, but they'll install that update for you. Okay. Any questions? And does everybody know what version of operating system they're on and what their phone model is?
You talked about a model. Where does the SE come within the number listing?
There are two SEs, which makes it really confusing. So one of them is Apple and older, and the other one is newer. So but do you know what model yours is? Which?
No, it just says SE.
I see. Okay. It is probably going to be in the newer than 8, but when we get to the first difference, you'll be able to tell because it'll work one way if it's the newer and a different way if it's older. So we'll be able to figure it out there. Is that June?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll figure that out when we get there. So, okay. All right. So let's move on. Is there any other questions? And again, at any time, just unmute and ask away if you have questions. Going to talk very briefly about physical features. I'm assuming you've already figured out most of the features. There's one that you may not have noticed, and that's the one we're going to talk about now. It's called the ringer on-off button, and it's located right here. So as you're holding your phone in front of you, it's at the upper left. And it's really not a button. It's more of I would call it a slider. At least on my phone it is. You kind of have to stick your fingernail inside there to flip the switch. And that's because they don't want it to flip accidentally. But if you flip that ringer on off button, it turns the ringer off, also turns off the ding that you get when a text comes in. So if you're going into a meeting and you want to turn your ringer off so it doesn't come on during the meeting, a class, church service, whatever, that is one way to do it. I'm going to show you what I think is a better way, but that is one way. A tip and trick here is that if you forget to do that and your phone goes off, if you touch either of the volume buttons that will turn the ringer off. So that way you can silence it quickly and it will go ahead and ring to the person calling, and then they'll go to voicemail. So they can still leave you a voicemail, tell you why they were calling, but it shuts that ringer off. So everybody's not staring at you. There's a setting that I think is a better way to control ringer volume. So we're going to look at that. I'm going to go back out to the home screen and start all over again, just so everybody's at the same place. So let's touch the settings again here. And it's right up at the top again. If you come down just a little bit, in fact, it's just above where we were. We were at general. It's 2 notches above do not disturb. Has this little purple background with the white star. I'm going to click that one. And if you turn on do not disturb like mine is now, that does the same thing. It basically says do not disturb silences calls and notifications. So before I start a class, I turn it to green. I'll actually show you an easier way to do that than coming into here, but you turn on do not disturb. After class, you can turn it back off. One reason I like this better than using the switch is because there's lots of other controls associated with it. You can schedule do not disturb. I have mine scheduled to come on at 10 o'clock at night and stay on until 7 o'clock in the morning. That way I can set my phone on the bedstand beside the bed and not have to worry about a call waking me up in the middle of the night. I'm going to scroll down to, there's lots of things under here. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm going to cover the most important ones. And the third thing I want to show you is down here where it says repeated calls. And what that does is that if someone calls you and then hangs up and then calls you right back within 3 minutes, if you have this set to green, that second call will come through. Typically, if somebody calls you and then they call you back within 3 minutes, they think it's an emergency. You might not agree when you get the call, but this is a way to let that second call come through. You can also use that and tell friends and family about it and say that, hey, if it's really important and you call me and it goes to voicemail, call me back because I may have do not disturb turned on. If you do, that second call will come through. So it's a way to kind of give some people a trick to get around it. And one of the other classes, it's called iPhone personal safety features. I show you another way to get around this. But any questions on this at this point? So again, a handy feature to use. And again, I'll show you a easier way to turn it on than coming into the settings in just a few minutes. All right. Well, let's move on then. Let's just go all the way back to the main screen and we'll talk a little bit about the phone in general and the main screen itself. And I'm fighting a sneeze here, I apologize. Okay. So let's start at the top at what's called the status bar. Ignore that where it says less view. This is not part of my phone. This is the tool I'm using to show you my phone. So my phone starts right here. This is called the status bar, and it basically just shows you your cell coverage, what carrier you're on. VZW is Verizon Wireless for me. Yours may have ATT or something else. It tells you if your Wi-Fi is turned on, tells you what time it is if you can read that little writing. Shows you how much battery you've got remaining. So it basically, as the name suggests, it tells you the status of certain aspects of your phone. This is the home screen, and there are actually multiple home screens as you go from screen to screen. You'll have multiple screens. This is where your apps live. We'll talk about apps later. Down at the bottom, this is called the dock, and that's because those apps don't change when you move from screen to screen. So that's where you want to put the 4 apps that you use the most, and I'll show you how to change what's in here. Yours probably has the phone, Safari instead of Chrome, and your chat here, iMessage, but you can pick what you want to put down here, and I'll show you how to do that. And the last thing is these little dots here, and they tell you where in the multiple home screens you are. So for example, if I go over a couple, it shows me now I'm on the 3rd of 4 screens. I can actually move back and forth among my screens by touching right down there on those buttons instead of swiping across the screen. So 2 ways to navigate from screen to screen: put your finger on it and swipe, or just touch down here. Sometimes this is easier because sometimes when I'm swiping, I accidentally launch an app I didn't mean to launch. So another little tip and trick there. All right, questions? All right, let's go on. So there's a couple of hidden screens that you may have found, you may not have found. The first one is the notification screen, and what you need to do is put your finger up in the top left and swipe down. If you look at my screen, watch what I'm doing. So I'm pulling down from the top and pulling down this notification center screen. You actually see the screen as well when you first go into your phone, when you first unlock your phone. And you probably notice these little notifications popping up on your screen periodically during the day, and then they disappear. This is where they disappear too. You can go back and check. So if you've had your phone off or you haven't been around your phone for a while, it's not a bad idea to check and see if anything has come in that you need to respond to while you weren't staring at your phone or having it in your hand. If you've looked at these and you say, okay, I'm good with all of those, you can click the X here and it changes to the word clear. I hit clear and it's going to clear out everything down there. And oh, by the way, notice it's telling me that do not disturb is turned on. So it does remind you if you've got do not disturb turned on. So if you forget to turn it off after the meeting, first time you unlock your phone, it will tell you do not disturb is turned on, and you can go turn it off if you don't want it on. When you're finished, you can just put your finger down anywhere on the screen and slide up and slide it back up off the top. I'm going to keep going, but again, if you have questions, stop and ask. Here's where the first time we'll figure out what phone you've got, and where they work different. There's something called a control center, and how you get the control center depends on your phone. iPhone 8 or older, which I have, you're going to swipe up from the bottom. And so if you look at my screen, you can see I'm pulling up from the bottom, pulling up this control center. If you're on a newer model, you swipe down from the top right. So on the newer phones, top left is the notification center, top right is control center. For older phones, it's top versus bottom. Everybody sees something that looks similar, probably not exactly what I've got here, but similar to what I've got. All right, great. What this is, these are shortcuts to lots of things that are buried other places on your phone. But you can get to them from here with one swipe. For instance, if you're on a plane, we're doing that again. I was on the plane for the first time this month in the last year and a half. But if you need to go into airplane mode, you can just swipe up and touch airplane mode. And then when you land, you can swipe up and turn it off. You don't have to navigate into settings to do that. Same with the Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth settings. I mentioned you can turn Do Not Disturb on an easier way. And whoops, that's not good. I just lost my phone. Hopefully I can get that back quickly. Hang on a second. It's getting a little cranky here lately. Okay, I'm gonna have to try one more time. If not, I'm gonna have to. Okay, hang on one second. I'm gonna have to stop this and restart it. Come on. There you go. All right, sorry about that. All right, so I'm gonna come back up, swipe back up to get back into my control center. Okay, and so what I was getting ready to tell you is if you want to turn on or turn off Do Not Disturb, all you have to do is swipe up and touch that little icon, and it tells you up here, it goes away, but I'm gonna touch it again. Watch up here. It'll tell me if I've turned it on or off. So it says it's now on until tomorrow. So I know I turned it on. I can't remember what the color of the icon means on and which one means off, but by looking up here, I can tell if I just turned it on or turned it off. And there's other things here, like you can change the brightness of your phone. And you've got all these little tools down here that can come in handy. I've got, for instance, I've got my flashlight, my calculator. So before, if I was looking for my calculator, I would do this number where I was trying to find where I had my calculator. Now I just swipe up and touch my calculator and it's right there. So very easy to get to things. So you got, this is a timer, this is a magnifying glass, audio recorder, my camera, notes, files, a number of different things that you use a lot. You can control which things show up at this point in the notification center, the control center, sorry. Let me show you how to determine which of these you see, because you're probably seeing something different than what I'm seeing. I'm going to touch home and go back to settings again. Told you we're going to be in settings a lot. And scroll down to where it says control center right here. Touch that. And here's the different items. This is what I currently have in my control center that I can see. And you can put up to 8 things in there. If I decide I don't want the wallet in there anymore, I can just touch this little red circle beside it. Opens up the remove button. I type remove. Doesn't delete that. It just puts it back down here in this bottom section. So if I want to add something up there from the bottom section, I can just touch on it down here. I go click the stopwatch. That's now moved the stopwatch into the upper section. I know you're all going to ask what a lot of these are. In the email that's going to come out after class, I'm linking to an article that tells you what each one of these is. So you can read through that article and see which one of these you want to use and which ones you don't. And just move them up and down to add them or remove them. So if I go back and go to my control center, there's my stopwatch there now instead of my wallet. Okay. Questions? Okay. All right, great. All right, so great. Apps and widgets is really the biggest thing in this class, because this is where a lot of the features are that make your phone really usable. And some of these are fairly simple, some of them not quite so simple. Is there anyone that's not on 14? Okay, great. Because a lot of what we're going to show next, you have to be on 14 to use. But since no one's on something older than 14, we'll just talk. Assume everybody can see what you're going to see on my phone is what you'll see on your phone. So the first thing we want to talk about is rearranging apps on your phone. I'm going to go to another screen where it's a little easier for me to do this since there's not so much stuff on it. But what you need to do is just to touch and hold anywhere on the screen down here other than on the top of an app. So I'm going to put my finger right there where the cursor is and hold it for about 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds, until you get the little minus signs and they start jiggling. So once that happens, you can just put your finger on anything. If I want to take the weather channel here and move it over here, I can do that. If I want to take the weather channel and move it to a different screen, I can do that. Come back over this screen. I mentioned that you can control what's in the dock down here. So maybe if I don't want the settings down there, but I want to have AP News down there instead because I'm a news junkie and look at the news 20 times a day, I can put something else down there. Pull that out. I'm going to put what I had back down there because I like settings down there. It's a little tricky moving things from screen to screen. What you basically have to do is just push it and like you're pushing it off the edge of the screen and it'll go to that other screen. Sometimes if your finger is too close to the edge, you can't get it to move. So this takes a little playing with for some people. But if you play with it a little bit, you can move things around. When you're finished, it's going to stop jiggling automatically if you don't do something for about a minute. But you can either touch the screen again or touch the home button, and that will stop it. Everybody get that to work okay? Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is widgets. And let me go to the second screen. This is a widget. This is my favorite widget. So widgets are a way to see what's inside of an app without opening the app. So this is the Weather Channel widget. It tells you at the bottom. It's a little hard to read that probably, but that says the Weather Channel. This also says the Weather Channel. So this widget is looking inside this app. What it does, it saves me time and effort. So if I want to see the weather, I can just come from my home screen, flip over one. I can see the current temperature, what the high for today, the low for tonight, the forecast for the next 3 hours, the forecast for the next 3 days, and check the radar. Lots of weather information. I never touched anything except to navigate to this screen. Without the widget, I could get the same information, but I'd have to touch the Weather Channel app. And it always loads slow. And I wait for it to load and wait and wait. And then I can get some of the information. To get the hourly, I've got to come here. To get the daily, I've got to come here. To get my radar, I've got to come down here. So again, to get the same information I could get with just one glance at the screen. It took me a minute, not a long time, but it took some time and a lot of clicks. Everybody kind of get what widgets are and why they're nice.
Could you do that again? I missed. I was in my my phone. Where do you get the widget? I'm sorry.
I haven't shown you how to get one yet.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
showing you what they are. So we're going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, let me show you a couple more just to kind of show you some other things. So here's a news widget. So again, this is the Apple News, but I can just glance to see what the top story is as I'm scrolling by and doing other things. Here's a a GPS app that shows you where I am. This is where I am right now. So it shows me my location. So lots of different apps, lots of different reasons you might want to do one. Let me show you how to get an app or get a widget. So like we did to move the apps around, just touch anywhere and get them jiggling again. And then up in the top, very top, there's a plus sign. For some of you, it's in the upper right. For some of you, it's in the upper left, but it's in the top regardless. Find that plus and touch it. And that brings you up to the search widget screen. And you can scroll through these. Now, as I mentioned, widgets are tied to an app. So if you don't have the app, you won't have the widget. So you may see some widgets on my screen that you're not going to see on yours because I have some apps you don't have. You're going to see some that I don't have. Not every app has a widget. So there are going to be a lot of apps that don't have a widget yet. This is new. Widgets just started with iOS 14. So there's more and more widgets being added all the time. But you can see here's one for Google Photos. This is Apple Photos, Google Calendar. So as you scroll through, you can see the different things that are here. I'm going to go grab a widget. And I'm looking for stocks. Okay. So I want to get the widget for stocks. So I'm going to just touch that one. And it brings up a screen where you can select how you want it to look on your phone. And they're different sizes basically. So here's a fairly small one. Here's one that's wide but not too tall. Here's a really big tall one. And here's another one that shows just one. So there's several different variations. Let me grab this one. So you basically go through and pick the one you want, have that one on the screen, and then touch add widget. And I've now added that widget. So here's my stocks widget. So if I want to see what's going on with the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, and the Dow, I can just look here and see what the current is instead of having to open that app. And you can see again the different sizes. This is the small size. This is the medium size. This is the large one, so you can pick the size. If I look at that one and I decide I like this information, but I like this size better, if I just touch the app, or if you just touch it really quickly, like I did, not meaning to, it opens the app. So again, widgets are always tied to an app. So if you tap the app, it'll open it. If you hold it, instead of tapping it, so you got to hold it for a second. I tapped it too quick. It brings up a menu and I can remove this widget. So I'm going to touch that and it verifies and it tells me removing this widget will not delete any apps or any data. So I'm not deleting the stocks app. I'm just deleting the widget that looks into the app. So I'm going to say remove and it's gone away.
How did you make it smaller?
Well, you can't change the size. You can pick a different size. That's what I'm going to do. I had it the small size. I'm going to go back in and pick a different size. So once you've got it, you can't change it. You have to delete it and re-add it. So I'm going to start it jiggling again, come up to the plus again, scroll down to stocks, or I could search for stocks. There's not a ton of them yet, so you can scroll through them and it's kind of a way to look at them. I'm going to come back to stocks. And this is the one that I had selected and I decided I didn't like that one. I wanted this one instead. So I'm going to just pick the different size. Now add this one. And now it puts it down there again, but with the different size. It's the medium size instead of the small, basically.
Wait,
And
this
that
is
works the
Brenda.
same with the calendar?
Yep. Any of them works. Now let's go back in again. Some of them have maybe just two sizes. Some of them may have 5 or 6 different sizes, but they all typically have multiple sizes. Somebody was asking about the calendar. And here's Google Calendar, so I'll pick that one. So again, it only has two sizes. It's got small and what I'm calling medium. And the number of buttons you see down here tells you how many different size choices you've got. But if I want to put my Google Calendar down there, I can pick that size, say add widget. And there's my Google Calendar. I can see the next two things on my calendar. Class I'm teaching now and the class I'm going to teach at 1:30.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Right. So hopefully you're kind of seeing, the value of widgets. One of the things you're probably also seeing is that they take up a lot of space. I mean, they're big. And if you wanted to have a lot of them, pretty soon you're going to run out of space. One thing that it lets you do, and let's see, is to do what is called stacking. And to stack a widget, I've never tried this to stack on a different screen, so I'm going to try something live without a net here, but I'm going to go back and get it jiggling again. And I'm going to take this stock one, move it to this page beside me, and drop it on top of this news one. And what that does, it creates a stack. So now the stock is here, my news is still here, and there's another news one that I put in earlier, and here's NBC News. So I've got 4 different widgets all occupying the same space on my screen. Think about cards, a stack of cards. So you got multiple cards, each one has a different widget on it. So that's one way you can save space. And you probably want to stack them in some way that makes sense to you. Like these are all news related, stock market report, and then my different news sources. This is Apple News, NPR News, NBC News, etc.
And how are you making them flip?
I'm just, well, good question. You can't see my finger. You just put your finger on it and slide it down.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, if you do that, you decide, maybe I don't want that in there after all, or I want to modify my stack. Again, you just touch on the stack, just like we did with the individual one. And I've got an option to edit the stack. When I do that, it shows me what's in the stack. And I can see I've actually got 2 of the same thing in here, so I don't need that. So I'm going to just put my finger on this one. So I'm going to put my finger right there and slide to the left. It opens up the delete button, and I can delete that one. So now I've just got 3 in there. So I can click the X to get out of that. And I'm going to slide through these, and there's the 3. Okay. And as you've already seen, you can move a stack around just like you can move, or a widget around, just like you can move an app around. Just get them jiggling and move it around. Okay. Questions about widgets? So just go in and take a look at them. Try them out. Like I said, it's very easy to put one down here. Try it. If you don't like it, take it back off or throw it into a stack. The last thing, yeah.
Sorry, one thing, Wade. Trying to find the inside of the widgets without clicking on them. You had a screen on the right-hand side, and I wasn't able to see how you got to that screen.
Get to the inside. I'm not sure what that means.
You had a stack of widgets, and it showed you what was in them.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. And you can't tell looking at it if it's a stack or not, but if you put your finger on it, like on this one, I put my finger on it, it doesn't do anything, the top one. This one, when I put my finger on it and slide it, it scrolls through, so I know that's a stack. So I'm just going to touch the stack, hold it for about a half a second, and this menu pops up. And I can edit the stack.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Last thing I want to talk about. So we're doing great with time here. is the app library. And if you haven't found the app library, it's if you're starting on your home screen, I'm gonna go back to my home screen. You can tell from my little buttons. You can also tell I've added more pages. When we first started, I had 4. Now I've got 5. It will keep adding them. There is a max. I think it's 6 is the max. But I'm right here now. But I'm just going to start flipping through my screens till I get to the last screen. I'm on the last button here. But after the last screen, if you swipe, because I have to swipe now since I don't have another button, you can see it brings up my app library. Love the app library. So this was a huge change with 14. So every app that you've installed on your phone is in the app library. And there's several ways to get the things in the app library. The default is it shows you by folders. So it's got them grouped into folders, suggestions, social apps, utilities, productivity and finance, creativity, etc., games. If you've got 3 or fewer apps in a folder, I can just touch on any one of these and launch it. So this is the Alexa app. So if this is, so if I touch that, it just executes that app. If you've got 4 or more, it puts the extra ones down here in this little section that are smaller. I can still touch any one of these 3 to run those. But if I want to run one of these, I have to touch here. I'm going to do that. And it opens up that folder. And you can see I've got a bunch of these. I'm an app freak. I love apps. So I've got a lot of these. So, but then now I can touch on any one of these and launch it from here. At this point, you can't determine what goes in what folder. Apple does that. At some point in the future, I expect you'll be able, Apple will let you pick what folder you want to put an app in. But for now, you have to go with what Apple is doing. But that's one way to get to the things in your app library. The other way, another way, is to just touch the app library right there. And it switches to an alphabetical list. And it also puts the alphabet over here. So if I'm looking for an app that starts with W, I could scroll through till I get to W. If you have as many apps as I do, that could take a while. It's a little faster just to touch the W over here. And there's my apps to start with a W. So that's the second way. One thing that's good about this view is that there have been times where I'm looking for an app and I know what the app looks like. I know what the icon looks like. I don't know what the name of it is. So I've had to just scroll through and look for the app. So, and when I get to the picture, then I'll realize, okay, there it is. So if you need to search by icon, this is another way to do that. It's actually faster than flipping through all your home screens looking. The next way, which is pretty obvious here, is to actually type in the name of what you're looking for. So if I'm looking for the app called WhatsApp, I can just click here and start typing. Usually the first 2 letters, all you have to enter. And there's WhatsApp. So I could search for it, find it, touch it, and it'll execute WhatsApp.
Question,
Question? Yeah, go ahead.
Wade. If I've lost an app, if it's in a folder somewhere and I can't remember what folder I'd put it in, how can I find it and get it back on my home screen?
If it's in one of these folders, you mean?
No, if it's in a folder I've created.
Okay. All right, let's go, because I was going to talk about that general idea. Well, there are something called folders, which in 14, they pretty much tell you not to use folders anymore because they're giving you the folders, but they're still here. So if there's 2 apps I wanted that are similar and I want to put them in a folder together. So like here's 2 different news apps. And what you have to do is to get them jiggling again, and take one of them and put it over the top, just like we did with the, to make a stack, and it creates a folder. And so I can touch on that folder and run either one of these apps, just like you can over in the app library. If I want to take something out of the folder and get rid of the folder, I just go and grab one of them, pull it out. And then go grab the other one and pull it out. The folder goes away and my apps are back out here again. Now, I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, John, but if not, it's the next thing I'm going to show you anyway. Let me see if this answers the question. If not, ask me again. What you can do now is, since the app library has everything in it already, I don't really need all these apps on my home screen taking up space. So what I can do is I can say, I don't really need Memrise on my home screen. So I'm going to just touch that and come down here and where it says remove app. So I've got two things. I can delete the app, which means take it off my phone entirely. But I can also say just take it off my home screen, but leave it in my app library. So it is now off my home screen. I can't see it here anymore, but it's over here. And if I tap ME for Memrise, there it is. It's still in my app library. And in fact, if I change my mind and I decide, gee, I want it back on my home screen, you can just touch it in your app library and drag it off to the left, and it will put it back on your home screen again.
That'll do what I need. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So so part of the advantage of doing that, which gets back to one of the problems we talked about with widgets, is I can take a lot of these apps off my home screens and make room for my widgets. So that's one of the strategies, and you can probably tell I have dozens and dozens and dozens of apps. I've moved most of them off of my home screen, and they're just available. Here's the last tip and trick, and then I'll see if there's any questions. We'll have just a couple of minutes, but what I typically do, I open my phone. This is my home screen that I come to automatically. And if I don't see what I need on this screen, I don't start flipping around, and I don't even go to the app library. What I do is I put my finger on the screen anywhere between an app and pull down. And you see when I do that, it starts to blur, and then it brings up this screen. Serious Suggestions will have the ones you've used most often and most frequently. Like here's the stocks app we were just in. It's showing up here. But if what I'm looking for is not here and Memrise isn't there, I just tap ME here. It brings up all the apps that have ME in it. And there it is right there. I can just touch it there and launch that app. So you don't really need to go anywhere further than the main screen. I put the ones I use the most on my main screen. A lot of the other ones I have in here are for classes I teach or to explain, something. But and when I'm really using my phone, if I'm looking for an app, I never go past my home screen. If I'm looking for widgets, I flip over and look at the widget. Questions about strategies for using apps, widgets, the app library?
Wade, how did you start with the widgets? The very beginning. For some reason, I missed that. I have everything else.
Yep, just touch the screen until it starts to jiggle and click the plus sign. And your plus sign may be over here. Yeah. And that'll take you into the widgets. And then just scroll through looking for the ones that you want.
Thank you. I got it.
Sure. Okay. Other questions? I got time for one, maybe two more questions. Okay.
Can you put widgets in a folder so it doesn't take up so much room?
You can't, by stacking them, that basically puts them in a folder. It's the same, it's kind of the same.
It's so big. takes up a lot of room.
Oh, well, not when they're in a stack like this. You can have 10 widgets taking up just this much space.
Right, but if
So
you
that's
put
the one
10,
way.
10 apps in a folder, it's just one little app folder. Does it work that way with
No,
widgets?
there's no folders for widgets.
Okay, thank you.
You can stack them, or you can use the smaller size, and you can get more on the screen. But no, there's not the answer to folders is stacking for widgets as opposed to folders. Because the whole idea is you want to be able to see everything. If there were little bitty inside a folder, then you couldn't see. Sticking this in a folder wouldn't do anything for me because I still have to touch it.
I thought it might make it miniature until you opened it.
Yeah, they may come up with something like that, but it doesn't exist right now. Yep. Okay. All right. So we're almost out of time here. We're 5 minutes to the end of the hour, and I do want to get you out on time in case you're trying to get to another class. So this is the end of the actual class, and I want to thank you for attending. Hope you enjoyed it and learned some things about your iPhone. There are 2 related classes that I mentioned. And there'll be links to these in the email that comes out after class as well. But iPhone personal safety features talks about safety features of your phone, personal safety. And then there's a iPhone tips and tricks, which just shows you a lot more features of the iPhone. So hopefully you'll take one or both of those classes. A couple other classes I'm teaching are Amazon Alexa and how to build your first website if you're interested in building a website. In terms of closing, I want to make sure everybody knows what's going to happen after class. So after class, you'll get an email, and it will have several sections on it. The class notes section is where there'll be some key takeaways, but there'll also be links to other websites that will have related information. And there's, I think, 4 links in this email, so lots of additional information. There's a link to a lot more information about widgets, for example, in there. In the email, there's a section with 3 other classes. Just click on the name of the class. It'll take you straight to the registration page on our website. So it's really easy to sign up for those other classes. Give feedback link brings up our feedback form. 2 questions, short feedback. How do you rate the session 1 to 5? How do you rate the guide 1 to 5? Just click on the stars. There's a place to add comments if you, and we certainly appreciate your comments, and then hit done. So very quick, easy way to provide feedback. We hope you're enjoying being part of the Get Set Up community and will help us spread the word and add more people to the community. Easiest way to do that is just to let other people know about Get Set Up, your friends, family, and organizations you belong to. If you want to become personally active within Get Set Up, we now have social groups and interest groups that are hosted by our learners. So if you're interested in doing any additional work like that, send us an email at help@getsetup.io. If there's classes you'd like us to be offering that you can't find, send an email to the same address. If you don't get that email after class, send an email to help@getsetup.io. Say, I never got the email after the iPhone class and I want those links. They'll get that email to you. And of course, to get the recording of the class, same email address. Be sure and include the name of the class and the date you attended. The last link is View Schedule, which takes you to our website where you can book another class. A couple of things I want to call out to make sure you found. Right in the center of the screen, there's this View My Complete Schedule. That's a shortcut to the classes that you've already booked. So they'll be here on your My Schedule page. You can launch classes from here as well. So you don't have to keep the emails. You can launch the classes you've registered for right from the website. If you click Browse right beside it, this shows you classes by date and time. So if you're looking for classes on Thursday, you can click here and it'll take you right to those classes. And there's also classes by category here. So if you click here, you can now filter by only technology classes, and it'll just show you technology classes or health and wellness or whatever you're looking for. If you know what you're looking for, the easiest way to find it, I think, is to just click on up here and enter a keyword like iPhone. And it'll show you all the iPhone related classes. And so you can see we have a lot of classes related to iPhone. Here's that tips and tricks class, for example. If you click that, it will take you to that class. One other thing we've added here is tell a friend about a class. So if you're going to take this tips and trick class and you want to tell a friend about it and have them come to the same class, you can just click tell a friend, click on how you want to tell them by Facebook, WhatsApp, or email, and that will send them a link to that class. So you can say, hey, I'm taking this class. Why don't you come to the same class? We can talk about it after class. Or you can let them know about a class that you've already taken that you think they would enjoy. So you could go back in to iPhone Basics, the class we just took, and that will send them a link to that class. The last thing I'll just show you, and I've got a minute to show you, that a number of people have asked for, when you're in a class, if you click about the guide, it has some information about the guide, but it also says other classes that guide teaches. So if you click here, this will show you, this is my class. So these are other classes I teach. So you can scroll through by guide. And if there's another class that guide's teaching that you'd like to take, you can book it straight from that screen as well. So trying to give you more ways to find the classes you're interested in. Okay, so I am 1 minute over, almost got done on time. I do want to thank you for attending the class. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope I see you again in another class really soon. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Great class.
Thanks, Jack. See you.